My name's Harry Clarke. I'm a senior commercial analyst with Avanode Group. So what does that mean? That means I care about data, reporting, and analysis, kind of making Avanode a data-driven organization, basically. So that's what I'm talking about today, smarter decision-making with data and how various things to do that. So first of all, just a bit kind of backstory, how good analysis can have a big impact, how we use data within the Avanode Group in general, how you can use data to improve your Avanode experience, and then also data informing pricing decisions as well. We have a lot of pricing information in Avanode, so just give a few examples of that. So I'm going to start with an example back from World War II. So this is the American military were losing aircraft in Europe, and they wanted to know how best to protect the aircraft. They could armour the aircraft, but they could only armour the aircraft so much, because otherwise there's too much fuel burn, etc. It's just not efficient. So they wanted to figure out how should they do it. This was the hypothesis. I should put more armour on the parts of the aircraft that are getting shot at the most. They then did the right thing, so they went and gathered some data to try and support their hypothesis, and this is what they came back with. They came back with the number of bullet holes per square foot on the aircraft. And you can see the trends there. You can see engine only 1.11 bullet holes per square foot. You can see up to rest of the plane 1.8 bullet holes per square foot. From this, they drew their conclusion. So they interpreted the results and they said they should put more armour on the fuselage and the rest of the plane because those are the bits getting shot at the most. Now the thing that they did here is they gathered the data and that was excellent and they did that well, but they had some incorrect assumptions about the data behind it. They weren't counting the aircraft which didn't come home. Now, when you then, if you think about that for a second, the whole situation completely reverses. Your correlation is completely different. I need to interpret again. And actually, you should be placing more armour on the engines because it's the ones which are coming back with not much damage on the engines which are actually coming back at all. So the basic point of this slide is to say it's one thing having the data, but you need to think very carefully about how you're using it, make sure your assumption's right. So how do we do this within Avanode Group? Well, there's a few things we do. So number one, we use data in our product development process. I'm not going to talk about that because John is talking about that tomorrow in his no talk. We use internal reporting an awful lot in Avanode Group. So every single person in Avanode Group has access to the same reporting using a visualization software called Power BI. This means that they can find the answers to pretty much any question about their market or Avanode as a whole, Scudera, Paynode, Avanode, at the touch of a button, which is really powerful. They can even do it on their mobile phone and just quickly answer questions. So that kind of enables everyone, rather than just making an assumption, they can go and check to see if they're actually, the truth is what they say. The next thing we do is whenever we need to make a really big decision, we don't just rush into it. We actually gather the data, make sure it's on our data warehouse, and analyze it properly to make sure that we're not moving forward incorrectly. And then the last thing we do, well, not quite yet, but machine learning, the future. So we want to be doing more in this space. So, maybe a really optimized search engine would be the place to start, or maybe a revenue management tool, something like that, something with machine learning. We'll get there. So how can you use data to improve your Avanode experience? This is an example of that internal reporting software I was telling you about. This on the left-hand side is a random company, and you can see the number of requests that they're receiving for their aircraft and the number of requests that they're accepting for that aircraft. On the right-hand side is the distribution of their price discrepancy. So when I say price discrepancy, I mean how accurate is the price that they're saying in the marketplace compared to what they actually quote in when they respond to that request. And obviously that price discrepancy is very, very important between the broker and the operator because an accurate price discrepancy builds trust and everyone knows the price that they're talking about. On the right-hand side, you can see this operator is actually doing very well. The vast majority of its prices are what they said it was going to be. So that's fantastic. If your price discrepancy isn't very good, this is something you can just, ring up your sales manager, product specialist, whoever, find out, and they can point to you how you might be able to improve that with your pricing profiles. They can look at it at specific aircraft level as well, so you can probably understand and get to the root cause of the problem. And then finally, I'm just going to talk about pricing as well. So what we've got here on the left-hand side, this is one-way trips from Van Nuys to Las Vegas, just for light jets. There's actually a whole range of aircraft which are flying between that route, but light jets is the most common that we see in Avinode for Van Nuys to Las Vegas. The thick line in the middle, that's the median price that operators are quoting for that route. And you can see that over time, it's gone from January 2017, where it was just above $5,000 on average, it's gone up to just over $6,000 at the end of the period. So actually, it's gone up by over $1,000 in that time. The dotted lines, so the bottom one is the 10th percentile, and the top one is the 90th percentile. So what's that saying is that 80% of the quotes are within that range of the price. So it's really a very narrow market for Van Nuys to Las Vegas. The quotes are all in that period. If you're quoting, $9,000, that is far too high for this market. If we look on the one on the right-hand side, this one is one-way trips from Van Nuys to Teterboro, this time for heavy jets. Once again, we've got the median price in the bold, and that's basically been hovering around the $30,000 mark for the entire period, so not much change there. What's interesting with this one is that the 10th percentile and the 90th percentile are completely spread out in this case. So there's a whole range of prices being quoted for this route. That's why it's important, not just to look at the average price, but actually what constitutes that average. There's an awful lot of different prices happening in this market. So, typically most prices are happening around the $30,000 and lower market, but not too low, not much below $26,000. But then some people are, there's a wide range up to $60,000 for that one-way trip. Maybe it's because some people are able to charge that much, or maybe it's something to do with the empty leg. This is one way. So maybe if you're confident of being able to get a one-way, then you'd be happier to charge the... if you're confident of being able to fill that empty leg, you're more likely to be charged lower. Whereas if you're less confident, you're going to be charging a higher price up towards the 60,000, which is going to be less competitive. So hopefully that's a summary of we have a lot of this pricing information across, lots of different routes. Obviously, the more popular the route, the better it is. And there's a lot we can learn from it, but you can't just look at the average. There's quite a story to be told within that. So thank you for listening. And if you want to come up, have a chat, whatever, just come grab me. Thanks.